It was a Tuesday in October. Simone had just gotten home from a 10-hour shift at the hospital where she worked as a medical billing coordinator. She kicked off her shoes at the door, dropped her bag on the couch, and pulled out her phone to order dinner, because the last thing she had energy for was cooking. That is when she saw the notification. Not a food delivery update, not a text from a friend, a notification from her car insurance app, the kind that only shows up when something has already gone wrong. She clicked it. Her car had been sideswiped in the hospital parking lot sometime during her shift. The other driver had left a note, which was at least something. But the damage to the driver's side door was significant. The body shop estimate came in 2 days later, $840. Simone stared at that number for a long time. Not because $840 was an impossible amount of money. She earned a decent salary. She paid her bills on time. She was not, by any reasonable definition, struggling. But $840 right now, in a form she could actually access without consequences? She did not have it. Her checking account had about $400 until the next payday, 9 days away. Her savings account, which she had been meaning to build up for the last 2 years, had $112 in it. She had a credit card, but it was already carrying a balance she was slowly paying down. Using it for the car repair would set that progress back by months. She called her mom. Her mom sent $200. She called her sister. Her sister sent $150. She put the rest on the credit card and told herself she would pay it off quickly. The same thing she had told herself the last 2 times something like this happened. Here is the thing about Simone's situation that matters most. She is not a cautionary tale. She is not someone who made obviously bad decisions or lived beyond her means in dramatic ways. She is incredibly normal. She is the average American adult navigating a financial life that nobody ever properly taught her how to build. And the $840 car repair was not the real emergency. The real emergency was what was missing underneath it. The floor that should have been there, the cushion that should have absorbed this exact kind of moment cleanly and quietly, that had never been built. That floor has a name. You have probably heard it. The emergency fund. And today, we are going to talk about what it actually is, why it matters more than almost any other financial tool available to an everyday person, and most importantly, how someone like Simone, starting from essentially zero, actually builds one. Not theoretically. Not in a world where extra money magically appears. In the real world, with a real income, real expenses, and real life happening constantly in between. Because the emergency fund is not just a financial concept. It is the difference between a bad day and a financial spiral, between a setback and a crisis, between handling what life throws at you and being thrown by it every single time. Let us talk about it. What an emergency fund actually is and what it is not. Before we talk about how to build one, we need to be clear about what we are actually building, because there is a lot of confusion around this. Confusion that causes people to either underbuild it, misuse it, or never quite feel like they have the real thing. An emergency fund is a dedicated, separate, liquid pool of money that exists for one purpose and one purpose only: to cover genuine unexpected expenses or income disruptions without requiring you to go into debt, borrow from family, or derail any other financial goal you are working toward. The word genuine is doing a lot of work in that definition, and it is worth spending a moment on it. A concert ticket that went on sale faster than you expected is not an emergency. A car repair from an unexpected accident, like Simone's, is. A vacation you forgot to plan for is not an emergency. A medical bill from an illness that arrived without warning is. A holiday you knew was coming every single year of your life is not an emergency. A job loss that leaves you without income for 2 months absolutely is. The emergency fund is not a general savings account you dip into when life gets inconvenient. It is a structural component of your financial life, one that sits quietly, doing nothing most of the time, so that it can do everything when the moment actually requires it. The target that most financial experts and researchers point to is 3 to 6 months of actual monthly living expenses, not income, expenses. If your life costs $2,800 a month to run, rent, food, utilities, transportation, minimum debt payments, then your full emergency fund target is somewhere between $8,400 and $16,800. For most people starting from zero, that number feels enormous, and that feeling is completely understandable. We are not going to pretend otherwise. But here is what matters today. And this is the reframe that changes everything about how people approach this goal. You do not need the full emergency fund to start changing your financial life. You need the first $1,000. Because the first $1,000 is not just a number, it is a threshold. It is the point at which the most common financial emergencies, the ones that derail the average American's budget most frequently, no longer have the power to send everything sideways. Most car repairs fall below $1,000. Most unexpected medical copays fall below $1,000. Most appliance replacements, emergency vet visits, home repairs, and urgent travel situations fall at or below that number. The first $1,000 does not make you financially free, but it makes you financially functional in a way that most Americans are not. And that shift, from fragile to functional, is the foundation everything else is built on. So that is what we are building today, the first $1,000. Why most people never build it. Before we talk about how, we need to spend a moment on why most people never get here. Not because they do not want to, not because they are lazy or undisciplined, but because the path to the first $1,000 has several specific obstacles that nobody warns you about in advance. And running into them without knowing they are coming is exactly why most attempts fail. The first obstacle is the feeling that there is nothing left to save. This is the most common one, and it is rooted in something real. For many people, after rent, food, transportation, and debt payments, the margin in the budget genuinely feels non-existent. The money appears to arrive and disappear in almost the same motion. But here is what is almost always true underneath that feeling. The margin is not zero. It is small. And it is being absorbed by spending that is happening at the bottom of the priority list. Streaming services, dining out, online shopping, subscriptions that run in the background. Not because these things are wrong, but because the savings was never claimed first. It was left to be whatever remained. And nothing ever remained. The fix for this obstacle is a mindset shift that sounds simple but lands differently once you really absorb it. The emergency fund contribution is not optional extra spending. It is a bill. It is the most important bill in the budget. It gets paid first, before entertainment, before convenience spending, before anything discretionary. The same way rent gets paid before anything else. The moment saving stops being a choice you make with whatever is left and becomes a fixed obligation you honor at the top of the budget, everything changes. Not the income, not the expenses, just the position of the savings in the sequence of decisions. The second obstacle is the size of the goal. $1,000 feels like a lot when you are starting from 47, and the psychological distance between where you are and where you need to be can be enough to keep people from starting at all. Because if the goal feels impossibly far, the brain quietly concludes that starting is pointless. The antidote to this obstacle is to stop looking at the full goal and start looking at the next milestone. Not $1,000, the next 50, the next 100, the next 250. Break the goal into pieces small enough that each one feels genuinely achievable within a reasonable time frame, and celebrate each one when it arrives, not with spending, with the recognition that the momentum is real and growing. The third obstacle is the raid. This is the one that catches people who actually started. They save $100. Then the car needs an oil change. They raid the fund, they save another 100. Then an unexpected birthday comes up, and they need a gift. They raid the fund again. Then they stop saving because the fund never seems to actually grow and the whole thing feels futile. The solution to the raid problem is separation: physical, psychological, and practical. The emergency fund cannot live in the same account as your checking balance. It cannot be connected to a debit card. It cannot be something you can access in 3 seconds with a tap on your phone while standing in a store. It needs to exist somewhere slightly separate. Not unreachably separate, but separate enough that accessing it requires a deliberate decision, not an automatic one. A high-yield savings account at a different bank from your checking account is the most effective structure most financial researchers and educators recommend. The slight friction of a transfer that takes 1 to 2 business days is enough to interrupt the automatic reach that depletes most emergency funds before they ever grow to mean anything. How Simone built her $1,000. Let us go back to Simone. After the car repair, after the uncomfortable phone calls to her mom and her sister, after the credit card charge she swore she would pay off quickly but knew from experience might linger for months, something shifted, not dramatically. There was no moment of cinematic resolve. She did not make a sweeping declaration to herself about changing everything. She just got very, very tired of the feeling. The specific, particular exhaustion of being a competent adult who handled her responsibilities every day and still being one parking lot accident away from needing to call her mother for money. She opened a high-yield savings account at an online bank, separate from the checking account she used for bills and daily spending. She labeled it one word: floor. She did not put a grand target on it. She did not map out a 24-month savings plan. She set one goal, $1,000, and she decided on one rule. $50 moved to that account on every single payday, automatically before she touched anything else in her budget. $50, not heroic, not dramatic, not the kind of number that makes a compelling Instagram story, but automatic and protected, and going to one place for one purpose, with a label she could read every time she opened the app. The first month, the account had $100 in it. Simone looked at it with mild skepticism. This was going to take forever. The second month, $200. She got a small bonus from work, $60 after tax, and decided on the spot that it was going to the floor account instead of dinner and drinks that weekend. $260. The third month, $310. She had canceled a streaming service she had not used in 4 months and redirected the $12 a month to the account. Small, but hers. The fourth month, she got a freelance invoice paid for some extra work she had done outside her regular job, $220. She had already planned to spend it on new shoes and a dinner with friends. Instead, she put $150 of it in the floor account and spent $70 on herself without guilt. $460. The fifth month, she increased the automatic transfer from $50 to $75. Her budget had adjusted to the $50. The extra $25 barely registered. 7 months after the parking lot accident, Simone's floor account had $1,040 in it. She did not celebrate by spending money. She sat at her kitchen table with her phone and looked at the number for a few minutes. Then she thought about what it meant, really meant. It meant that if her car got sideswiped again tomorrow, she would pay for the repair herself, without a phone call to her mom, without another credit card charge, without the specific particular humiliation of being a functioning adult who cannot handle a single bad day. It was $1,000. It was everything. The tools that made it work. What Simone did was not complicated, but it was deliberate. And the deliberate choices she made, the specific tools and systems she used, are worth naming clearly because they are the same tools available to anyone starting from zero. The first tool was the separate account with a label. The psychology of labeled savings is well documented. When money in a savings account has a name, floor, emergency, safety net, people are significantly less likely to spend it on non-emergencies than when it sits in a generic account labeled savings. The label creates an identity for the money, and spending money that has an identity requires overriding a psychological barrier that spending generic money does not. Simone did not put her emergency fund in her checking account. She did not keep it in the same institution where her debit card lived. She put it somewhere that required a deliberate transfer to access, and she gave it a name that reminded her every time she saw it what it was protecting. The second tool was automation. The $50 automatic transfer happened on payday, not after bills, not after groceries, on payday. The moment the income landed, a fixed amount left for the floor account before Simone's spending brain ever saw it as available. She did not have to decide to save every 2 weeks. She made the decision once, set the transfer, and the system ran without requiring her willpower in any future moment. This is the single most important mechanical change most people can make to their savings behavior. When saving requires a decision in every pay period, a decision that competes with immediate wants, immediate bills, and immediate stress, it will lose most of those competitions over time. When saving is automatic, it wins every time by default. The third tool was the bonus rule. Simone made a decision early on, not a rigid rule, but a personal guideline, that any unexpected money coming in would be split. Half to the floor account, half to spend freely, without guilt. Tax refunds, work bonuses, freelance payments, birthday cash. Any money that was not part of her regular paycheck got divided at the moment it arrived, before it touched her checking account, and became invisible in the flow of regular spending. This rule is powerful because it allows the emergency fund to grow faster than the regular automatic transfer alone would allow, without requiring any sacrifice from the everyday budget. The bonus money was never in the budget. Sending half of it to savings costs nothing in terms of daily comfort. The fourth tool was the monthly increase. When Simone's budget adjusted to the $50 automatic transfer, which happened faster than she expected, because humans adapt to reduced availability almost immediately, she increased the transfer to $75. Not dramatically, just slightly, enough to maintain a gentle pressure on the goal without creating genuine strain. This practice, sometimes called savings escalation, works because the initial adjustment period for any savings amount is the hardest part. Once the budget has normalized to a new automatic outflow, increasing it by a small amount creates almost no additional discomfort. But over months and years, those small increments compound into a savings rate that would have felt impossible at the beginning. The fifth tool was clarity on what counted as an emergency. Simone made a list, not a formal document, a note on her phone. It had 2 columns. Left column, things that counted as emergencies and justified accessing the floor account. Car repair from an unexpected event, medical bill not covered by insurance, job loss or income disruption, essential appliance failure, urgent travel for a family emergency. Right column, things that did not count. Sales and deals that felt too good to miss, social events she wanted to attend, gifts for planned occasions, vacations, anything she had known was coming for more than a week. The list was not about being rigid. It was about having a decision already made before the temptation arrived. Because the moment of temptation, the moment when the sale notification arrives or the invitation shows up, is the worst possible moment to make a clear-headed decision about whether something qualifies as an emergency. The list moved the decision to a calm moment, and the calm decision protected the fund. What happens after $1,000? $1,000 is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the foundation. Once Simone hit her initial target, she did 2 things. First, she kept the automatic transfer running. Same amount, same payday, same account. She did not redirect it to spending now that the first goal was hit. She raised her target to 3 months of expenses and kept going. Second, she started doing other things with her finances simultaneously, paying down the credit card balance more aggressively, opening a Roth IRA, and contributing a small amount each month, thinking about longer-term goals. And here is what she noticed immediately. Every other financial goal felt more achievable with the floor in place, not because the numbers changed, but because the anxiety had dropped. The low-grade financial dread that had been her constant background companion, the awareness that one bad day could unravel everything, had quieted. And in that quieter mental space, she could think more clearly, plan more effectively, and make better decisions about everything else. The emergency fund does not just protect you from emergencies. It changes the quality of your financial thinking. It gives you the psychological breathing room to build everything else without fear driving every decision. That is not a small thing. That might be the most important thing. The one thing to do this week. You do not need to have a perfect budget to start. You do not need to solve every financial problem in your life before this one gets attention. You do not need to wait for a raise, a better month, a tax refund, or the right moment. You need to open one account, today if possible, this week at the latest. A high-yield savings account at an online bank, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Ally Bank, SoFi, High Yield by American Express, or any similar institution. Give it a name. Give it one goal, $1,000. Set one automatic transfer, whatever amount is genuinely workable in your current budget. $25, $50, even $10. Not what sounds impressive, what will actually happen without requiring heroic willpower every 2 weeks. Then let it run. Do not check it every day. Do not move it around. Do not rate it for something that is not a genuine emergency. Just let the system run and let the number grow. Simone's parking lot accident cost her $840 and a level of stress and shame that lingered for months. The account she built afterward will protect her from that feeling for the rest of her life. That is what $1,000 actually buys. Not security forever, not financial freedom, not retirement, just the floor. The thing everything else gets built on. Start building it. We will see you in the next one.